Hi, I'm Ellis, and I'm a public theologian. And here we talk about theology and how it intersects with real life. This is an election year, and so I thought we would start by talking about Jesus and politics, or Christianity and politics. This intersection between faith, really any religion, and the secular politics, or the secular political world, right? How we pool all of our resources as a nation or a state or a city. We pool our resources and how that money is distributed. This is mainly what I'm talking about when I talk about politics. It's the organization of our national life, our community life, our city life, state, all those political arenas. So, how does Christianity intersect with that? How does faith intersect with that political world, or does it at all? Should it intersect? So, those are the things I want to talk about in the next couple of months, because this is a political, an election year. It's always a political year, but it's an election year, and it's going to get crazy. It's already crazy, and it seems like it's going to get crazier. It's possible that we've never had a crazier political cycle than the one that we're in right now. So there are several issues that I think we should talk about in talking about the intersection of faith and politics. Three issues in particular. One, the first question is, was Jesus political? That's a big question. The second question is, what is Christian nationalism? Because Christian nationalism is really getting a larger platform, and more people are being pulled into this idea of Christian nationalism. So I want to take a little bit of time at some point to kind of talk about that. And then the last question I want to hit on is the question, is there a Christ-centered framework for engagement in politics? That is to say, if a Christian is supposed to engage in politics, and spoiler alert, I think the Christian is or should be engaged in politics, what is the Christ-centered kind of framework for doing that? Okay, so those are some of the questions I want to cover over the next couple of weeks and months as we kind of are racing towards this election year. So let's start with the first question. Was Jesus political? And the question is really kind of nonsensical. It really doesn't make sense in the first century. If you were to go around in the first century asking people, are you political? They would kind of look at you with a strange look, going like, what do you mean? Because there was no separation really between faith or spirituality and politics in Jesus's world. To be a Jew in first century world, to be practicing Judaism, was to be political. All of the politics were intertwined and intermeshed with their spirituality, with their faith, with Judaism. Judaism was, by its very nature, a political faith in the first century, and so it was connected in a way that you could not tear it apart. Not so much true in our world, where in America, traditionally, we have had this at least somewhat of a separation between faith and politics, what's sometimes called the separation of church and state, which I believe is a good thing. We can talk about that later. But it's there. It's a part of our national consciousness. It's a part of our national history that we have some type of separation between our religious world and our political world, or our secular world. Whether or not that's a good separation is not something I'm going to discuss now. Just to note that it is there, and it has been there from the very beginning to one degree or another. Whether it's been codified in the Constitution or not, that's another big debate. Irrelevant to me. It has been a part of our national conversation from the very beginning. The early, the founding fathers, so to speak, talked about this at some length. So the first and most important thing I want to say about the question, was Jesus political, is that it's just about impossible to answer with any certainty, because we're coming from a 21st century perspective. It's hard for us to get out of that perspective to really understand the perspective of most people in Jesus's day. The question wouldn't even make sense to them. And so we have to be very careful with that. But there are a couple of things that you can say and point to about Jesus's life that give us some kind of answer to that question. And so that's what I want to talk about next. So stay tuned for the next episode.